Man, the great fights just keep coming. In this next one, we got Petr Yan taking on Sean O'Malley. And this is a fight that everyone's been talking about since it came out. I feel like a lot of people have been very opinionated on either side. But Petr Yan is the established guy. Obviously, he's a former UFC champion. His last 3 fights in a row were title fights. He's coming off of, I believe, maybe even his last 4 fights in a row, right? His last 4 fights in a row. And he's coming off of 2 out of 3 losses where he lost Aljamain Sterling. One of those, obviously, was kind of a disputable loss, where it was the DQ loss. The last loss he had to Aljamain Sterling was also very close, but you could say that was the first, I would say, official UFC loss of his career. And now he's getting a humongous fight. I mean, not only does fighting Sean O'Malley probably put more eyes on you than fighting for the title does, but a win raises his name value a lot, in my opinion. Some people are saying that Yan has nothing to gain in this one, and I disagree. I think he has a lot to gain. Sean O'Malley is one of the most popular young fighters in the UFC, brings a fan base with him every time he fights, and now he's getting the chance to prove not only that, he brings the eyes, but he brings the goods. And if Petr Yan can beat him, I think it'll really raise his profile, and I think it'll just give him more fan base in the United States with casual fans. And I think a loss won't even drop him down too far. But if Sean O'Malley could beat Petr Yan, he'll be in a title fight for his next fight almost unquestionably. I think same could be said for Yan. I think if he wins, he'll probably be in a title fight. And O'Malley is coming off his no contest with Pedro Munoz. Obviously, this is a big step up in competition. Outside of Pedro Munoz, no one else O'Malley has fought really has been super high level for bantamweight. He did beat Raulian Paiva, which is a good win, but Paiva is a guy that more fought at 125 than 135. The 2 times that O'Malley has been in there with top 10 guys, he hasn't been able to get his hand raised yet. He got put out against Chito Vera, and then he eye poked Pedro Munoz, and that fight ended up being a no contest. But he's extremely confident coming into this fight, and stylistically, it's the best matchup for him to win over a top guy. O'Malley doesn't want to fight wrestlers. I mean, that's pretty obvious. He's avoided saying guys' names like Marab, Ricky Simone like the plague, but Petr Yan is probably not going to come in here and wrestle. He's going to try to box up and hurt O'Malley, kick the legs, probably use his body kicks too, but it'll give Sean O'Malley the ability to have his free-flowing striking. And this fight being 3 rounds also favors O'Malley, I feel. O'Malley doesn't have bad cardio, but he's never been 5 rounds. Petr Yan is a slow starter, and O'Malley tends to start fast. Sometimes O'Malley cannot take damage the greatest, and Petr Yan's a slow cooker, and he gets better as the fight continues, slowly breaks guys apart. So I feel like it being 3 rounds in that aspect also favors Sean. And Sean's whole game is predicated on his frame, his length, speed, timing, footwork, really long reach, super fast, straight punches. And it's a similar matchup to Petr Yan had with Corey Sandhagen, but Sean O'Malley is even a little bit taller, a little bit longer. And Sean O'Malley, I think, has that extra pop in his punches that Corey Sandhagen has not shown. I mean, we've seen Sean O'Malley knock guys out, and you could argue maybe it's a level of competition, but I don't think Corey Sandhagen has that same power in his hands that Sean O'Malley does. And you could see people really do respect Sean O'Malley's striking. I mean, you see Chito Vera, Pedro Munoz, they are guys that are, really known for being able to come forward, take a ton of damage. They're willing to get in the pocket and eat shots to give shots. And in the fights with Sean O'Malley, they were a little bit more trepidatious to close the distance, and they were kind of hanging around at range and throwing a lot more leg kicks. And I'm not saying it wasn't a smart game plan to do, but it showed that they definitely had respect for Sean O'Malley's ability to counterpunch and his power. Petr Yan is also a fighter that's notorious for his pressure and methodically pressuring guys, staying forward, eating shots to give shots, and having huge power. So it's going to be interesting to see how Petr Yan plays it, if he's going to show that same level of respect that other guys have shown to O'Malley, or if he's just going to try to close the distance and make it a dogfight right away. But I feel like a lot of people are not giving O'Malley any chance to win this fight, and I just totally disagree with that. I feel like footwork does tend to give Petr Yan issues. I mean, even guys that I don't think have nearly as good of footwork or as good of counter-striking as Sean O'Malley, like Aljamain Sterling, have been able to use footwork to kind of frustrate Petr Yan a little bit. And Corey Sandhagen, I feel like, he could have arguably won the first 2 rounds. The second round was close, and the third round, he was winning that round the entire round, and he got dropped and ended up losing the round because of the drop. So that's something that Petr Yan tends to do. He doesn't match the volume, but he'll land big shots, knockdowns, and things like that kind of can sway the judges and give him the round. But with Sean O'Malley, you have to be really careful, man, because Sean O'Malley is just so good at controlling that range. He can counterpunch really well with the straight right hand, straight left hand. He looks really seamless from both stances. And obviously, I mean, I feel like the knock on Sean O'Malley is his ability to take damage has not really been tested yet to the head. I mean, I haven't really seen anyone really be able to land big headshots on O'Malley and knock him out. And he has excellent, head movement. So I feel like for Petr Yan, the better game plan would be to go to the body, dig the body, and attack the legs because, you can move with the upper body all you want, but the body's, the lower torso is kind of going to stay there and your legs are probably going to stay there. So it's going to be a lot harder to be evasive and avoid those shots for O'Malley in comparison to the headshots. And Petr Yan, man, I mean, that guy has some really good body kicks, really underrated body kicks, I feel, heavy leg kicks, and I feel like he just needs to come with that game plan early, stay that high guard, show guard, try to kind of pressure, be methodical with the pressure, but obviously you have to respect O'Malley's power and his counter shots, so just be a little bit hesitant, but, shell up, eat the shots on the guard, and then throw big leg kicks, big body kicks, try to slow O'Malley down, and maybe even try to mix it up and wrestle. I don't really see that happening because I don't think he's going to be able to find the range to be able to close distance and shoot a takedown, and that's not really his game either. But if he can grapple, he's going to have an advantage there, in my opinion, and by a large margin, and be able to probably even win on the ground by a TKO with ground and pound. But I more see Yan just coming forward, switching stances like he always does, looking to cut the cage off, chop the legs early, go to the body, and then hopefully as Sean O'Malley a little bit slower with his footwork in the second and third round, he could start to land those big counter hooks, the big straight shots, and his big power punches and try to get Sean O'Malley out of there. But, man, I mean, I feel like this line is way off, man. I feel like Sean O'Malley, it should be a lot closer, like O'Malley, like plus 155. And the line's moving more in O'Malley's direction, but I just don't agree with Petr Yan being minus 310, especially on it being a 3-round fight. And I get why it's hard to pick Sean O'Malley just because of the step up of competition. We've seen Petr Yan in there against the best in the world, and he's already proven that he can beat those guys. But I feel like Sean O'Malley is a tough stylistic matchup for Petr Yan, man. I mean, he has great footwork. His stance switching is on point. He's not going to be standing in front of Petr Yan. He's going to be looking to snipe him from the outside. His height, his speed, I think he's the faster guy. And I also feel like he can kind of sneak up on Petr Yan in this one. I feel like Petr Yan is kind of not really buying into Sean O'Malley. He doesn't think he has anything for him. I don't know if he's going to respect Sean O'Malley. And Sean O'Malley definitely could do some damage, man. I mean, if Petr Yan comes in real reckless, Sean O'Malley, I think, could knock him out. I know some people are going to be thinking I'm crazy with this prediction breakdown, but we'll see. And I think Sean O'Malley also can win on points, man, if he could take two rounds. I mean, the first round, I feel like almost undoubtedly O'Malley is going to win. I mean, look at Petr Yan's career in the first round. He lost the first round to Jinsu Sun. He lost the first round to Aljo in both fights clean. He lost the first round to Corey Sandhagen clean. If O'Malley can bank one round in the first round, all he has to do is win one of the next two, not avoid getting hit with some big shots, and win the fight, man. And I feel like O'Malley is going to be able to move around, have a big speed advantage early, have a big height and reach advantage, obviously, and I think the footwork is going to frustrate Petr Yan. I think he's going to be walking him into some counter shots, and I think Yan's going to be struggling to find the range. O'Malley did get hit with a lot of leg kicks in his last fight, but he was checking a lot of them. And then in the second round, in my opinion, it looked like he was more turned on, and he was moving around and attacking more and was better defensively as well in comparison to the first round and defending the leg kicks. So if this was a closer line fight, I would go with Petr Yan, but this is, more of a betting channel. I'm giving you guys predictions from a betting perspective, and I'm going to go with Sean O'Malley, man. I'm going to pick Sean O'Malley to win this fight by decision. I think it'll be a close decision. I think it might even be like a split or something because Sean O'Malley is lower volume and Petr Yan could come on, and his pressure could be something that one judge really likes over the counter ability of O'Malley. But I think people are really underestimating O'Malley here. I think that he's getting a stylistic fight that he likes. He's not going to get a guy that's going to wrestle him. He's getting a guy that's going to strike, that's shorter. And I think, he's going to be able to sneak away with the win here. I mean, the only guy that we've seen Petr Yan fight that has a similar style to O'Malley is Corey Sandhagen, and he was able to beat Sandhagen. But if you remember, that was a short notice fight. And also, it was very competitive in the first 3 rounds. I mean, a judge easily could have gave Corey Sandhagen that fight 29-28 if it was a 3-round fight. So I'm going to go with Sean O'Malley to win this one, and I know a lot of people are going to be shitting on my pick for this one, but we'll see what happens. I got to go with Sean O'Malley here.